Hey Broncos country, welcome to another special edition of Altitude Advantage. For the off season, we have more bite-sizable episodes for you guys to listen to if you're on a walk or just relaxing in your car. As always, I'm your host and team reporter, Lisa Hernandez, and across the table we have our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Eric Zalala. In today's episode, we're gonna each pick who we think could be the breakout star for the Broncos in 2025. So tossing it over to you. Before we even get into that, I feel like there's so many routes that you can kind of take, in terms of who can be the breakout star, because I feel like the Broncos have really positioned themselves where there's a number of places that we can have breakout performances.
Yeah, there's a lot of young guys on this team, a lot of potential talent. Excited to see how it all unfolds. I think for me, a breakout star, and I don't know who you're picking yet, so hopefully we don't pick the same person, but I always view it as somebody that has been on the team for a year at least and is like poised to take that next step. And so like a year ago, Nick Bonito had 8.5 sacks, I think. And it was like, can he take the next step and become like a dude, right? And he did that.
The dude.
And he, double-digit sacks, couple of defensive scores, had that strip sack versus the Raiders. This isn't a Nick Bonito episode, so I'm not like we can stop there. But
I'm like, is that who you picked?
No, but he's past breaking out. He can't break out again. It's done.
He broke it.
He broke out. He can surpass it or match it, but it won't be a surprise to anybody. So it's got to be, I think, to some degree, somebody that hasn't quite hit that level yet that you think could do that. And I will say, just for people wondering at home, I just coincidentally wore the same quarter zip as last week, and I may or may not coincidentally wear it the next 2 episodes as well.
Hey, it's your lucky quarter zip.
And we're not recording all these on the same day.
I mean, it's your lucky quarter zip.
I might happen to wear it 2 more weeks in a row.
It's only weird if it don't work.
That's true.
Having a lucky quarter zip.
It's my lucky podcast quarter zip.
I'm the bright, shining part of this.
That's true. You're bringing the spark.
The spark. I know if you guys are listening to this, finish this episode out, but then listen to it again, but on YouTube so you can watch what we're actually talking about.
My outfit is less vibrant. Anyway.
But you make it up with your personality, so you're fine.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, I think that there's, like we said, a lot of options. And you might argue that this guy is right on the edge of already being a breakout player. I don't think he's quite gotten there to star yet. I'm going to go with Marvin Mims, a guy who I thought last year in the second half of the season kind of transformed this Broncos offense. They started using him, maybe it was around the Atlanta game, kind of in these, they put him in the backfield. He's motioning, is he taking handoffs? Is it just to redirect the defense? Is he catching the ball out of the backfield? It unlocked a new element of Marvin Mims' game other than just kind of deep threat. And I know that Sean Payton has talked about, hey, Troy Franklin's a guy that's going to take a step. He's going to ascend like Mims did late in the year. But I still think that there's a step for Marvin Mims to take in that if you look at his last several games of the year, so I'm looking at his last 6 games of the year. Before those games, he had 1 game, the first part of the season, with 3 or more catches. Over the last 6 games, he had 3 or more catches in every single game. He had 2 100-yard games, 5 touchdowns over the final 5 weeks, and it just felt like he reached a new level. And I don't think it's a surprise. I don't think it's a coincidence that you saw the Broncos hit on those long plays, the one against the Browns, the one against the Bengals, the first one where Bo Nix is launching at 60 yards in the air. I don't think it's a coincidence that those plays to Marvin Mims happened after he started being used in the backfield, because my opinion is that now the defense has to move closer. You're worried about, okay, if we play too far off Mims in the backfield, he's going to race by us. Out of the corner, we're not able to get there, so we got to stay closer. And then, boom, you're able to set him up for the long ball. And so I think even if they can just keep using Marvin Mims in that same way, maybe take another offseason of getting used to that role, I feel like we could be talking about a guy that can break out for more 100-yard games. Last year he had 61 catches. Oh, sorry, this is his career here. Let me pull up his numbers last season. He had 39 catches for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. I think you could see a guy this year that could put it all together and have 800, 900, who knows, maybe even, be productive enough to get to the 1,000-yard mark. But I don't know that he's ever going to be have as many catches as like a Cortland Sutton, because Cortland feels like that volume type guy to me.
Yeah, Mr. Consistent. Like, that's like your go-to guy, especially for a young quarterback.
Exactly. But I think with Marvin, the explosiveness is there, that if he can have 4 or 5 catches a game, that might be enough for 80 yards, 100 yards a game when
more
he's getting those touches.
More kind of guy is what you're saying
exactly.
he's going to be.
He hits on these big plays. And so when I look at who can be that breakout, that X factor, Marvin Mims is my guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a solid pick. And he's such a Swiss Army knife, because obviously you didn't even really go into like just like what he can do on special teams and his production there, but like what he can do to really stretch the field and be another weapon for Bo Nix. Like, that's really going to break him out in a different way.
Yeah, and you're right about, I should have mentioned the return. That's where he's broken out, right? He's been a first-team All-Pro the last couple of years. Like, he is a known commodity, one of the best returners in the game. Can he get his receiving ability to match that? And I think, based on what we saw late in the year, I think there's a good chance he can.
Yeah, and that's a really good pick. That's not who I was going to go with, even though obviously Marvin Mims, big fan. But you went for the more less is more kind of guy, right? I'm going for the silent but like deadly kind of guy.
Okay.
Because my pick's actually Devon Vele. Because, you know, obviously second year for him. He appeared in 13 regular season games with 7 starts with Denver and 1 postseason game, obviously the one that was against the Bills on the road. But recording 41 receptions for 475 yards. He averaged 11.6 with 3 touchdowns. And he tallied the most receiving yards, 475, and receptions and receiving touchdowns by a Broncos 7th-round draft pick as a rookie. So I thought just like his production on that level, you know, really started towards the end of the season, like blooming towards the end, right? And I think he was a guy that came up in those situations that we really needed something to really spark. And one of the plays that really kind of plays in my mind is against the Chiefs, when he had like that juggling catch in the back of the end zone to kind of pull in that touchdown. And I think he has really good instincts. He gets really high praise from not only Sean Payton, but the other coaches. And just being another big body in that wide receiver room, he's somebody that I think can kind of cross the middle, willing to take big hits. It's good to know that Sean Payton mentioned that he's going to be good to go for training camp, so no worries there health-wise for him. But, you know, he's just one of those guys that I hope makes that next step. I can see him making that next step. And I think when you have a Marvin Mims alongside that can really be your Lightning McQueen there, you have another guy that can really kind of come in and be more like of that big body in the middle of the field. I know you have Evan Ingram, but it's just a solid guy to have on the side. And I think with his connection with Bo Nix and continuing to grow that, I think he's going to be a really big impact on the offensive side. Yeah,
he certainly got valuable reps last year, right, as a rookie, and Broncos made a point of playing the young guys, and Vele did have some strong games, caught a touchdown in Kansas City as well. And we'll talk more about this maybe next week or the week after, but I'm just interested, how does this receiving rotation play out, right? When you've got Pat Bryant as well, you've got Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton,
battles.
Evan Ingram, Trent Sherfield, and a number of other guys, and then you want to run the ball too. You know, it could be a scenario where you've got 4 or 5 receivers who are all good players, and the statistical totals maybe are, maybe everyone's closer to 500 yards as opposed to one guy. And obviously I would still expect Sutton in particular to produce, but maybe instead of 2 guys at the top, it's one guy and then 3 or 4 others like about the same yardage. And I talked to Troy Franklin about this a few weeks ago. I said, hey, it feels like you've got several guys in that room that from week to week, depending on the matchup, you could go out there and have 5 or 6 catches. Vele could, Marvin Mims could, Pat Bryant, Trent Sherfield. Like and that's again without mentioning Sutton, who we know what he can do. And so I'll just be interested to see how does it pan out from a big picture statistical perspective. But I do agree, overall, this is a guy in Devon Vele who showed up in big moments, and I think will continue to do that. And another year is going to help him, and excited to see what he can do. Yeah, and Broncos country, we're going to have another episode breaking down position battles on the defense and the offensive side, so keep a lookout for that. But, you mentioned the wide receiver room, and quickly before we close out here, one of the things that I like about Mims, Vele, and obviously, like you said, being a stacked wide receiver room is the fact that even the notion of being depending on the matchup, you might get more catches, you might get this. It's there's no egos there. Obviously, they're all professionals, they're all competitive, but
if there's anything, when you have Sutton leading that, where he can come off a game where he has 0 receptions and the next thing go off crazy, there's no ego. There's like, look, this is what was best to win the game. And if that's what it needs to be, then I will play my role in that sense. And I think that trickling down to these guys is going to help them be that breakout star, because it's like, just follow the blueprint and, good things will happen.
Yeah. And let me just toss one more name out there before we close. Jonah Ellis, I think, is a guy to keep an eye on. 5 sacks last year as a rookie, 7 tackles for loss, 6 quarterback hits, and 2 passes defensed. He was a guy that, with Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, what they did, I think Jonah Ellis was a little bit overshadowed at times, but that's a decent amount of production for a rookie player, especially when you're not getting quite as many snaps as some of those other guys. We know the Broncos, they only played 38% of the defensive snaps. And so we know the Broncos want to lower the snap count for Nick Bonito. Sean Payton made that clear during the offseason program. So we'll see. I think Jonah Ellis is a guy that, even though he may not be a starter, he could be someone that makes an impact and takes another step. So watch out for him too.
This team is stacked. It is stacked. And Broncos country, we want to know what you guys think. So make sure you guys comment below who you guys think will be the breakout star in 2025. Go ahead and debate amongst each other. We love a community of debaters in our comments. So make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, I am your host and team reporter, Lisa Hernandez. Across the table from our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Eric Talala. And this is another episode of Altitude Advantage, breaking things down. We're going to keep you guys all informed as we count the days to training camp.